Hello, my name is Ismarie Gutierrez, and today I will share with you guys a lesson plan where arts can be integrated into math. The suggested grade level is first grade. The lesson time frame is 45 minutes. The objectives would be that students will skip count from 1 through 50 by stomping his or her feet and clapping his or her hands, or through the personal choice of dance movement. Student will practice skip counting of 2s, 5s, and 10s through mental math and exercise it through dance movements. Student will learn how to create math dance movements as well as working with each other. The materials for this assessment are quite easy. It's a computer with internet connection and a dancing song that the students can come to an agreement with. Now, the first step to this activity is to show students that math can be joined with dance and music. Therefore, the teacher will first ask the hook question. The teacher may ask the students, can you practice skip counting through dance? And usually students, depending on their answer, you could, continue on. Then, for example, the teacher could say, we could practice counting numbers and mental math through clapping, stopping, and other types of dance movements. Once the teacher has introduced the lesson plan, the directions, rules, objectives, etc., then we move on to the warm-up activity. The warm-up activity is crucial for this activity. The warm-up activity will be having the students count from 1 to 50 as a class. Depending on the group of students, you could either count from 1 through 50 once or twice. The students will then have to come into an agreement as to what song they want to create dance moves with, or just practice their skip counting mental math skills by the clapping or stomping of their feet. Once the students choose a song, then they will be divided into groups of 2s and 3s depending on the class size. Students will have different stations as to where they have to go. This activity should not be done with chairs around. Once the students are in groups, they choose by what numbers they want to skip count with. For instance, each group will have to pick counting by 2s or 5s, or 2s and 10s, or 10s and 5s, as long as they're counting 1 through 50 using 2 skip counting methods. Groups will then decide how they want to incorporate dance into their skip counting. For instance, many will choose to practice their skip counting through stomping or clapping, others will choose dance movements. After 20 minutes, each group will stand in front of the class and present how they counted from numbers 1 through 50 using dance movements and mental math, and why they chose their 2 skip counting number methods. This activity is great for students who have been practicing skip counting of 2s, 5s, and 10s for maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, and now they're polishing their mental math skill. And this is also a great finishing or closing of the lesson. The big picture of this lesson plan is for my students to use their critical thinking skills by practicing mental math. Math can be a boring, complicated subject, and as a teacher or future educator, we must understand that not one student learns the same way, and therefore we should create lesson plans that contain different resources that help students understand or just polish what they already know. For this lesson plan, I chose to incorporate dance into mental math for my students to reach the objectives in a fun and learning environment. The great thing about arts is that you really can incorporate it into any lesson plan. For instance, in this lesson plan, I chose to incorporate science and art together. This is suggested for first grade, and it usually lasts around 90 minutes. The objectives will be students will learn about different insects in the rainforest and their environment. Students will learn how to work with other classmates. Students will give specific details on assigned rainforest insects. Students will learn about climate and geographic locations, map concepts. Students will learn how to use technology by doing online research, and students will bring to life his or her insights by using Play-Doh, which will be the art portion. Students should have prior knowledge of geographic concepts and understand the different climates and location. ESOL accommodations level 1 and 2. ESOL students will be given the directions guidelines in their first language. For the research portion, ESOL students will be paired with a student who speaks English fluently. The materials are a tablet or computer with internet connection, paper, pencil with eraser, worksheet, and Play-Doh of every color. In this lesson, I want my students to learn about different rainforest insects as well as their surrounding habitat, food, survival skills, etc. Thus, I will put my students to the test by having them do research on these certain insects. And although they are first graders, they know how to work with computers and technology. Arts will also be incorporated into the science lesson plan, as the students will use Play-Doh to form their own assigned insect. I will assess the students on the research questions they complete. The procedures are: teachers should start off the lesson by explaining to the students what they will be learning. The teacher should then project on the smartboard a picture of a rainforest insect. It could be any insect. The teacher should ask students if any of them know what insect it is and where does it live. Most likely, a student from first grade will either name a general insect or will know it all. Thus, the teacher should then project a map on the smartboard and see if the student can name what the location on that map is. If so, or even if they can't, the teacher should then say that the insect that they just saw lives in that location. This depends on the location and type of insect the teacher chooses. The teacher should then inform her students what they are going to do today. The teacher should give clear directions, rules, objectives, etc. Once the students are engaged in the class, the teacher should then break the class into groups, and the teacher will pass out the worksheets and tablets for each group. For instance, there could be a total of 5 groups. Each group will have a specific insect assigned, where they will be asked to find the information provided to them on the worksheet. Questions that the students will need to research online would be as follows: how does your insect survive in the rainforest? What does it eat? Do they live just in that area, or can they adapt to any other climate? How do they survive and how do they defend themselves? Does it protect our rainforest, and if so, how? Once each group has presented, the students will be able to bring their insects to life. For instance, if they have a blue and yellow frog, they will need to create a blue and yellow frog with Play-Doh. In other words, model an insect. Every student will need to create their own Play-Doh insect, which would be theirs to keep and take home. This will be the art portion of this life science lesson plan. The great thing about arts is that it can be incorporated into any lesson plan, as I stated before. For this lesson, I decided to teach my students about life science, but always found a way to let them have fun and get creative, which is why I created the art portion. My students learned about different insects in the rainforest and learned that there are other species that have different services, or why we need certain insects to protect our rainforest, etc. Students in this lesson plan learned how to research critical thinking questions and did so as a team. Learned how to communicate what they learned about new insects, learned their location on the map, and most importantly, they saw the connection between science and art in the classroom.